Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really incredible project out of Kenya called Haki Aina. It's all about using AI to tackle something called justice deserts, basically places where the official legal system just isn't an option for everyday people.
All right, so to really get our heads around the problem Haki Aina is solving, we're not going to start with tech. We're going to start with a story, something that happens all the time.
I want you to picture this. You wake up one morning, and there's a new fence right in the middle of the land that your family has lived on for as long as anyone can remember. This isn't just a bad dream. For so many people in Kenya's informal settlements, this kind of land dispute is a very real, very stressful part of life.
So what do? How do you prove that land is yours? You see, there are no official papers, no title deeds. All you have are the stories, the word-of-mouth agreements passed down from the community elders. And that's a tough thing to prove when you're suddenly challenged. So, naturally, you turn to the people you trust, the local elders. They're the mediators, they listen to everyone, they think it over, and they make a decision. But, and this is a huge but, that decision is just spoken. It's not written down anywhere. It just exists in people's memories, and that brings us right to the heart of the whole problem.
And get this, a whopping 80% of civil disputes in these communities are handled exactly like this, through these informal chats that leave absolutely no paper trail. It's the system people use, not because they want to, but because they have to.
I mean, just look at this chart. The visual here tells the whole story. That tiny little 20% slice, that's the entire formal legal system. All the courts, all the lawyers. The other huge 80%, that's where almost all justice actually happens. And it's completely, totally off the books.
So why is that gap so massive? Well, it's because the formal system, frankly, just wasn't designed for these folks. It costs a fortune, for one. It's often in English or Swahili, not the local dialects people actually speak. And you know what else? It doesn't even recognize the decisions made by the community elders.
And this is really the key takeaway here. Without a written record, a decision made by an elder, no matter how wise, has zero power outside that little community circle. You can't take it to a bank, you can't show it to a government official. It's just an opinion, not solid proof.
So, the big question is, how on earth do you fix that? How do you bridge that massive gap? Well, this is where things get really interesting. Let's talk about Haki Aina and how it plans to turn those opinions into a real, verifiable record of justice.
The way it works is actually pretty brilliant in its simplicity. It's a three-step process. First, the input. People just tell their story in their own language. They can record audio or even use simple comics. Second, the processing. The AI listens, translates it, pulls out the most important facts, and then, this is cool, it searches a database of past community decisions to see what's happened before. And finally, the output. It spits out a simple, easy-to-read summary called a neutral fact sheet for the human mediators to use.
Okay, so the magic behind all this is a technology called Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG. I know it's a total mouthful, but the concept is super important and pretty simple. It just means the AI isn't pulling answers out of thin air. It's forced to base its suggestions only on a specific private library of data. And in this case, that library is the community's own history of justice. It keeps everything relevant and culturally on point.
Now, the way they've built this is really smart. Think of it like using Legos. They're using tools like Make.com to connect all the pieces and Pinecone to organize that library of past cases. This whole approach means it's not just a one-time thing. It's a blueprint that could be copied and used in other communities with the exact same problems.
But, and this is probably the most important part of the whole project, this is not about replacing wise elders with a computer program, not at all. It's about giving them a better tool. It's all built around a human-in-the-loop philosophy. And I absolutely love this quote because it just perfectly captures the whole idea. The AI is like a waiter. It comes to the table and presents the menu of possible solutions, all based on things that have worked before. But it's the community elders who have the final say. They're the ones who choose the meal. Let's put it even more simply. The AI is the clerk. It does the paperwork, it organizes the files, it finds the precedents. But the elder is, and always will be, the judge. This makes sure that justice is always delivered with human empathy and a real understanding of the local culture. Okay, so a great idea is one thing, but you need a solid plan to actually make it happen, right? So let's take a look at Haki Aina's roadmap. They've got a super clear, very measurable action plan for the next 12 months.
And these aren't just vague promises. These are concrete goals. Within 6 months, they're aiming for 90% accuracy in understanding local dialects like Shang, which is a huge technical hurdle. By the 1-year mark, they want to have 200 disputes recorded in their system. And they're already thinking about the future, planning a small fee that would cover 40% of their own costs, making the whole thing more sustainable and giving the community a real stake in it.
So let's zoom out for a second. Why does any of this really matter? Because the impact here goes way beyond just settling a few arguments over a fence. This is about building an entirely new foundation for community power.
Just look at this shift. What used to be just personal stories and anecdotes now becomes hard community data. What were once grievances spoken into the air now become verifiable official records. And this is the game changer. A community that used to just ask for help can now walk into an official's office with a stack of data and demand accountability.
And this kicks off this incredible positive feedback loop. First, the data leads to accountability. Then, their promise to release their tech blueprints on GitHub for free means anyone can learn from their work. And maybe most importantly, it creates actual jobs, training young people to become digital ADR clerks, the people who will run this new system.
It's also so important to know that this isn't some tech project just being dropped in from the outside. It's deeply rooted in the work of local groups like the Husisha initiative, who are right there on the ground, dedicated to empowering their own communities through tech and education.
And that really brings us to the final, profound question that Haki Aina is asking all of us. It's a total reframing of what justice is. What if justice wasn't some complicated, expensive service you had to go out and find? What if instead it was a fundamental piece of infrastructure, like clean water or a safe road that was built, owned, and run by the very people it's meant to serve?